Well, it's finally here, the movie that I and many other people out there was hoping would come along and put Marvel back on the track. It's definitely not an overstatement to say that Marvel has been feeling like a bit of a mixed bag ever since Avengers Endgame. We've had some really great movies, and then we've also had some really bad ones. Think Ant-Man, the Quantumania movie. Let's not even think too much about it though. It's really hard to ignore the fact that it feels like the MCU is in its Hail Mary state. Ever since they announced that Robert Downey Jr. was going to be returning to the MCU as Dr. Doom, it's been pretty plainly obvious that they are pivoting and pivoting hard. So I would not consider you crazy to walk into this movie with severe reservations. Not to mention the fact that the Fantastic Four historically have never had a good movie. But has that changed? Is this movie actually fantastic? Let's discuss the Fantastic Four First Steps. I mentioned it earlier, but I want to say it again. The Fantastic Four have not had any good movies. Those movies that came out back in the early 2000s with Michael Chiklis and Chris Evans, they just really leaned way too much into the comedy for my taste and for a lot of people's taste. And I don't like the way any of those characters were really portrayed. I think that the actors did a good job in their roles. They did a good job giving us what the writers wanted them to give us. And of course, Chris Evans, he was really funny and he was entertaining. And I really did think that Michael Chiklis was a really good thing. I thought Ian Gorfurandalala was a really good Mr. Fantastic. Julie McMahon was a pretty decent Dr. Doom, although I don't think that that was a very comic book accurate Dr. Doom, and I didn't really overall feel like I got to see Dr. Doom. And then of course that reboot came along, but that one didn't last very long at all. That one sucked even worse than the original one, because that one decided, hey, let's go super serious and just let's suck. And suck it did. It really did suck. It really excelled at it, actually. And it makes me wonder why. Why has it been so hard to make a Fantastic Four movie? It's not like their powers are any weirder than any of the other characters that have had successful movies. They got the stretching, but there's weird shit going on in a lot of these movies. I mean, look at Thor. He's flying around with a hammer and lightning. So if we can make a successful Thor movie, I'm pretty sure we should be able to do it. And thankfully, it seems like now that Marvel has the Fantastic Four back in-house, we are in for finally getting the team that we deserve. We're going to get the proper treatment for these characters. The Fantastic Four First Step stars Pedro Pascal, Ebon Moss-Bachrach, Vanessa Kirby, Joseph Quinn, Ralph Ineson, and Julia Garner. I'm pretty sure a lot of us were not expecting the first Marvel Fantastic Four movie to go straight to their biggest bad, and yet they really did. They went there. They went straight to Galactus. In this film, the Fantastic Four, who have already been around for 4 years with their powers, are put to the ultimate test when the Silver Surfer, Shalla-Bal, shows up and informs the people of Earth that they're about to get laid to waste by her boss, this big guy that calls himself Galactus. It's a pretty intense premise and a very surprising leadoff considering the Fantastic Four's most famous villain is for sure Dr. Doom. And I really can't help but feel like the plan was originally to have Dr. Doom be the villain in Fantastic Four 2, but after the whole Jonathan Majors thing, Marvel was saying to themselves, oh shit. We gotta pivot, and we gotta pivot now. So let's bring in Dr. Doom. And you know what? Let's bring Robert Downey Jr. in to play the role. That'll really shake things up and get people in the seats. And thankfully, the whole shakeup that went down with the Jonathan Majors thing, it doesn't seem like it had any impact on this film whatsoever. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be so bold as to say this is the best Marvel movie that they have put out in quite some time. Probably since Spider-Man No Way Home, which if you can't tell, I really do love that movie. And a big reason that this film works as well as it does is because there is a lot of talent and effort into making sure that this film was finally a good Fantastic Four film. They knew we've had 3 bad Fantastic Four films. We cannot have a 4th. So the pressure is on and they rose to the occasion. Pedro Pascal does a very solid job as Reed Richards. Of course, I really didn't have any doubt about that. Yes, he is in a lot of stuff nowadays and I think that is kind of rubbing people the wrong way, but that doesn't mean that he's not still a great actor. He's a great actor that's in a lot of movies, and he does a great job in this movie. And he has some really remarkable chemistry with Vanessa Kirby. I really thought that these two, they did seem like a power couple. I really enjoyed how they interacted. And let's jump over to Vanessa Kirby because she is the Invisible Woman, Sue Storm, and we've never seen Sue Storm pregnant like she is in this movie. And that's definitely a fun twist to add. A pregnant superhero. put that in your head. I want to jump back to Pedro Pascal really quick for a second because there's something I really wanted to talk about that I forgot to mention, and that is his powers. I do think personally that his powers don't look as good as they really could. I mean, it's just, he's stretching. How good can you really make that? The CGI we have has come a long ways, but his power is just kind of, it's something that I think might look better in, you know, animation form. It looked more natural in The Incredibles than it does in this movie. But I do think that for the limited amount that you do see his powers, I do wish that it could have looked a little bit better. And it's not so much that the stretching didn't look real, that was fine. It's his face. A lot of times when he's using his powers, it seems like his face is animated as well, and that stood out just a bit. It was a little bit distracting. Sorry about getting sidetracked, but that's something I just felt like people might want to hear. It's something that a lot of people were probably concerned about, and I'm telling you, it could have been better. But let's jump over to Joseph Quinn and Ebon Moss-Bachrach as Johnny Storm in The Thing, because I really loved these two. These two are one of the best parts of this movie. Their bond, they are like the two brothers that are constantly getting in trouble, constantly bickering, but they are a joy to watch. Joseph Quinn did a really solid job as Johnny Storm, but I will say, I do wish that they would have left his hair his natural color, because they made him blonde, and as a result of him being blonde, they decided to give him contacts to make him have blue eyes, and it was pretty distracting. I could tell that those were contacts. I don't know what it is. You can dye someone's hair blonde, but you just cannot sell different eye colors. It just doesn't work. It's so obvious. So I did find that to be a tad bit distracting, but I really tried to put that aside, and his performance really did make that a lot easier. And Ebon Moss-Bachrach, let's talk about him. I really appreciated him bringing his own twist and his own take to The Thing, because he could have easily just followed in the footsteps of the actors that came before him, but he decided not to. Sure, he's got that weight that Ben Grimm normally does have, because out of all the four people that got their powers, he's the only one that turned out really ugly. So he has that burden going on, but I do like that they didn't overly focus on that part of him. He wasn't broody or moody. He was actually a fun character, and he was a joy to watch, as I expected. And jumping over to the villains of the film, I'm pretty sure we can all recall the fan outrage that was all over the internet when they announced that Julia Garner was going to be playing the Silver Surfer. You know, toxic white men, they really don't like to have their roles taken. And what's weird and what's frustrating is that no one's role was taken. This is not the same male Silver Surfer. This is a female version of the Silver Surfer. She's from the comics, and I think she did a really solid job. She really had that cold demeanor, and yet there was a warmth to her that you get to see a little bit in the movie. It's not a ton, but I do think that Julia Garner really did nail this role. I thought she was really excellent, and she really rose to the occasion and said fuck to the haters, which I really did appreciate. And Ralph Ineson playing the big bad Galactus, I thought he did great. Although he is, you know, you don't really see much of him in this movie. He's obviously probably in some kind of CGI motion capture thing, but he did have that presence that really makes him matter. He stood out, and he was a very interesting villain. And one thing that I thought was very cool about him is that, like Thanos, his motivations are a little bit relatable. You get to find out why he wants to eat these planets, and I can kind of understand it. Sure, it sounds very bad, and you know, the way Thanos wanted to go about things was also very bad, but I like that we're writing villains whose motivations are just a little bit relatable. You can understand it, and it makes it so that they're not just some cliche bad guy filling up the screen for the, you know, the good guys to punch. He actually has some depth to him. All in all, this movie had me smiling from ear to ear for most of its runtime. It is just a very fun experience at the cinemas. It's definitely a big step in the right direction for Marvel. They really brought things back and made me feel joy again with their movies, and that's a really welcome feeling, because Marvel back in the day was really awesome. It was what everyone wanted to see. It was bringing people to the cinemas. Marvel's been making a lot of money for Hollywood, but lately that has been tamping down because the movies have been mixed bag, but now we are finally getting a good quality movie, and I'm hoping that this is a sign of Marvel returning to form. You know, comic book wise and character wise, I've always been a DC guy, but what's funny is that in the movie universe, it's been very much reversed. DC just has not been able to really make a shared universe work out very well. I don't know what it is. They're just struggling. They don't have the right leadership. Maybe they're just throwing too many darts at the board and seeing what's gonna stick. Either way, it's definitely been a mixed bag, and having now seen Superman and the Fantastic Four, I can say that I enjoyed the Fantastic Four even more than I did Superman. For me, this movie is a 9 out of 10. I really think it's a solid effort. I really appreciated all the actors, all the effort that went into it. It's a great time at the movies. Put your thoughts on it in the comments and let me know, what did you think of it? If you like this review, go ahead and hit the like button. And if you want to hear more things from me, subscribe to this channel. Later.